again, today we're going to go over graphing circles. So we do need this circle in standard form, and we want to identify the center and the radius. Okay, so if I have x squared plus y squared equals 81, do you remember what your center point would be if I have x squared plus y squared? It is 0, 0. Okay, it is 0, 0. That is your h and k value. Okay, next I need the radius. Okay, your radius, you need to take that final number here, 81, and take the square root of that, because it's equal to r squared in standard form. So we have to take that square root, so our radius will be 9. Okay, so from here we just have to plot our center point, which is 0, 0. And then from that center point, you're going to count up 9 units, plot a point. You're going to count 9 units to the right, plot that point. 9 units down, and 9 units to the left. Okay, so then we just have to connect those outer points. It's okay, it doesn't have to be the greatest circle ever.
Oh, I thought we were supposed to do straight lines. What's it called? Like shoot?
Do not do straight lines. Okay, they should be rounded. So I have this circle here. Okay, questions on this first one? Not terrible, right? So it's easier to graph this when you put it into standard form. Okay, so in example 2, we want to put that equation into standard form. Okay, to do that, just like with parabolas, we have to complete the square. But we have to do this with both our x's and our y's. Okay, so first thing I want to do is combine x's and y's. So you want to group your x's together and group your y's together. Okay, so I have 2 x's here. I have an x squared and a 4x. So I want to write those next to each other. So I have x squared plus 4x. And I have a y squared and a minus 10y. So again, I want to group those together. So I have plus y squared minus 10y. And I have this minus 7 and equal to 0. So since I'm trying to group my x's and group my y's, I'm going to add this 7 to both sides so it's off to the right. Okay, so now I have x squared plus 4x plus y squared minus 10y is equal to 7. So with my quantities here, I want to complete the square for my x's, and I want to complete the square for my y's. Okay, so I have to add in to that quantity, and I have to add in to this y quantity. Okay, and whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Okay, so I'm adding in a value here, adding in a value here, so I have to add in 2 values on the right-hand side there. Now again, to get this value, we are just completing the square. So it is b over 2 squared. Okay, so b is 4. So we have 4 over 2 squared, which is just 4. Same thing for this value here. We're going to do the same thing. So b over 2, so b is 10, or negative 10, over 2 squared. Okay, that's negative 5, right? What's negative 5 squared?
125.
Okay, so I'm going to add 4 into this space and 25 into this space. So we have x squared plus 4x plus 4 plus y squared minus 10y plus 25. Now whatever I add to one side, I have to add to the other. Now remember, if I have a value out front, you do need to multiply that value out front by what you added in. Since my value out front is just a 1, I can just add 4 and 25 to the other side. Okay, from here you just need to factor this, and again, since you're completing the square, you should have the same thing. So it should multiply by the same number to get 4, add to the same number to get 4. Okay, and that is 2, and that quantity is squared. Okay, same thing with your y's here, factor this. Okay, both of those are going to be a negative 5, so negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. Negative 5 plus negative 5 is negative 10. So it will be minus 5, and that quantity is squared. Okay, again, so you're just factoring those quantities. From here, I can add these together. Is 36. So here is your standard form. With that standard form now, we can identify our center point and our radius. Okay, so our center is at HK. H is with x. That is negative 2. Whatever's in your parentheses, you always take the opposite sign of. Okay, so for our y then, our k value, what is it? Okay, our radius then, you need to take that r squared value at the end, and we want to take the square root to find that radius. It is 6 units. Okay, then to graph it, we just need to plot our center and then count 6 units from that in each direction. Okay, so our center is at negative 2, positive 5. Okay, we'll count 6 units up. It will go off the graph by 1. Okay, 6 units to the right. 6 units down. And 6 units to the left. And then connect those outer points as a circle. Do not use straight lines. I will mark that wrong on your quiz because it is a circle.
Well, what if our like curved lines look kind of straight? Yeah, what if they kind of straight?
Okay, well, curve your lines. Don't make it straight through like this to a diamond shape. Of what? Of what I don't want it to look like? If you have something like this,
That's what
don't make a square.
that's absolutely wonderful. That makes me happy.
No.
And then where would you draw a circle? Yeah, why would you draw one?
I want it to look like a circle.
So,
If it looks ovally, that's okay. As long as your lines are not straight, they're rounded.
and if it looks like a square with an X through it, it's okay.
No.
Then why did you draw that?
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Stop it. Okay, questions on example 2. All right, I have one more example then. Okay, so again, we're finding the center and the radius so that we can graph this. To do that, we will have to complete the square. So again, I want to group together my x's. That's my first step. So I have an x squared and a 6x, so I want to write those next to each other. Okay, and I have a y squared. And then I have a minus 7 and equal to 0. So again, that constant that's on the left-hand side, I want to move that to the right. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides. Okay, so we just move that constant value, just the number without any variables, to the other side of the equation. So here I have x squared plus 6x plus y squared equals 7. Okay, so I do have an x squared and an x, so I do need to complete the square for my x's. Do I need to complete the square for my y's? No. What is the k value with that? It's 0. Okay, so your k value, if you just have a y squared, is 0. So I still want to complete the square with my x's, though. So I have x squared plus 6x. I need to add something to that to complete the square. Okay, and then we still have a y squared equals 7. And I have to add one thing to that right-hand side, since I did on the left. Now again, to get this value, we use b over 2 squared. Okay, our b value is 6. So we use 6 over 2, that quantity is squared. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. Okay, so we have x squared plus 6x plus 9 plus y squared is equal to 7 plus what? 9. A little crooked, but it's fine. Okay, so here, completing the square, what is my quantity squared? My quantity squared is x plus 3. Okay, I can multiply 3 times 3 to get 9, add 3 plus 3 to get 6. Okay, then I have a y squared, and that is equal to 16. Okay, so here's my standard form. Next, I need to identify the center. If I have a value in parentheses, what do I need to do with that sign? Take the opposite. So h is negative 3. What's my k value again?
0.
Okay, and then our radius. We need to take the square root of that r value there, r squared value. That's 4. Okay, from here I can plot my center point. So we're at negative 3, 0. And then we just count 4 units up, right, down, and left. Okay, so there would be your circle. Questions on completing the square for your circles, finding the center point, or finding the radius or graphing?